Hi, welcome to Yoga for Runners. So really nice little sequence today for opening up shoulders in particular. They can get really tight when running. You sort of tend to get this kind of posture, so opening up the shoulders. Also looking into the front and the back of the legs and the hips. So hopefully a really good all-rounder for opening up any tight areas for you. So props that you'll want today, if you have them, a couple of blocks would be great. If you haven't got a couple of blocks, then grab maybe a few cushions, and then if you have a couple of sturdy sort of, water bottles or something like that for, extra support for your hands, that would be really good. So you'll want a couple that are about the same height, obviously. And then a blanket for underneath your knees if you're on a hard floor or if being on your knees for a long time can feel a bit uncomfortable. So we're coming to start in a cross-legged position. So if you just come back from a run, we won't stay here for too long. I know you want to get moving and opening your body. So allowing the eyes to close, drawing up tall through the spine if you can, and maybe finding a little bit of openness across your chest. So hands can be wherever's good, in your lap or on your knees, whatever feels comfortable. So maybe as you're sitting here, as you've just come back from your run, maybe allowing the breath to come back to normal. If you've been feeling a bit out of breath, maybe taking your breaths a bit deeper into your body, filling the sides of the ribs, the back of the ribs, maybe into the belly. So not feeling that your breath needs to be any particular length or any particular way, allowing it to enter and leave the body as feels good, seeing if it can take up as much space as possible and noticing what spaces it does fill. And maybe you check in with your body as well. Are there any places that are feeling tight, anywhere that you noticed when you were running? Maybe there were places that were feeling a little bit sore, or that need a little bit of stretching, a little bit of opening today. Checking in with how those places are feeling. Taking one more breath here in whatever way feels good for you. And then allowing your eyes to open, bringing the feet out to the side, coming onto hands and knees to start with. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, drawing your spine long, gaze down in between the hands. On your next inhale, pressing through the hands, lifting the tailbone, having a wave come through the spine, chest draws through the arms as maybe the gaze lifts as well, coming into cow. And in this position, maybe you take a little sway with the hips side to side. As you exhale back to center, pressing through the hands, coming the other way, tucking the tailbone round in the spine, tucking the chin, and then having a little sway with the hips here as well. So particularly in this one, in cat, it can feel really nice if your lower back's been getting tight, if your hips are tight, to have a little sway here. So finding your way through these two movements, inhaling as you open and expand, allowing the chest to open. You can stay static in these if that feels good, or you can take the little sway side to side. And then on your next exhale, you're rounding through the spine, tucking the chin, and option to take that little sway as well. Coming through one more time in whatever way feels good for you. And then finding your way back to center as you inhale. Coming down to lie down on your belly, so bringing one leg back and then the other, coming down onto your forearms. And bring in the elbows underneath the shoulders. Palms are flat to the ground, forearms flat to the ground. And then toes are untucked, in case your toes are still tucked. And then inhale, drawing the chest through the arms. Allowing broadening and opening through your chest, coming into Sphinx pose here. So as you inhale, getting a feeling of the chest drawing through the arms, broadening further, and exhaling to relax. Maybe you'd like to add a few neck circles, really slowly, circling through the neck. One way and then the other way. Back up to center, taking one more breath here. Inhaling, chest draws through the arms. Exhaling to release. Lowering down all the way and bringing your right arm out to the side, palm to the ground. And then coming onto the right side of your face, bringing the right side onto the mat. Left hand comes down onto the ground. And then pressing through the left hand as you roll over onto the right side. So leaving the head down here. So you'll notice starting to open up that right shoulder. So you'll want to maybe bring your left foot behind for stability. And you can either do that with the knee bent if that feels better, or with the foot to the ground. Breathing into that right shoulder, coming as far as feels good. And then as you exhale, coming back to center and bringing the right hand down by the side of the chest. I need to squidge over a bit because I've got a wall there. And then left hand comes out to the side, palm facing down, coming onto the left side of the face. And then using the right hand to help rotate your body and maybe bringing that foot behind for a bit of stability. So opening out the left shoulder, the left chest here, coming as far back as feels good. So you could stay sort of like half rolled over there. You can roll over a little bit further. You know, it's whatever your shoulder's feeling, whatever's feeling okay for you. So if you're doing a combo at the moment of working at a desk and then running in your breaks or something like that, this might be a really nice way to allow your shoulders to open. You'll find when your shoulders are open that running feels so much better. Having tight shoulders and trying to run is actually really difficult. We think it's all in the legs, but the shoulders are pretty important as well. Now when you're ready, exhaling, coming back to center, bringing that left hand underneath the chest. And then pressing through the hands up to the knees if that feels good. And taking a downward dog here. So checking that your hands are shoulders width apart, the knees are hips width apart, tucking the toes under, pressing through the hands, coming into your first downward dog. So maybe you're taking a big bend in the knees, focusing on opening up through the spine first and allowing the head to be heavy. Maybe you want to take that pedal through the feet that we looked at last time. So as you exhale, one heel comes down. And then inhaling, both heels lift. Exhale, other heel comes down. So if the back of your legs are feeling quite tight, this is a really nice way to make sure that you're not overstretching anything. Sometimes blasting straight into a downward dog can overstretch the hamstrings, especially if you've been on quite a long run and everything's feeling quite tight. If you do want to come into a downward dog with the legs straight, if you're feeling very open, of course, by all means. Wherever you are, taking your feet to the edges of the mat in your down dog, so taking a wide down dog. This just gets into a different part of the legs, so feel free to still keep them bent if you want. You can still do the pedals of the feet, or wherever feels good for you. And then bringing legs back to center, back to hips width. And when you're ready, bringing that right foot forward in between the hands. So you can use a hand to help it get there if you want. Coming into a little lunge. So if your knees tend to get a bit sore, this is a nice place to have a blanket underneath the knees. And I'd also say, if you've got any blocks or whatever your replacement for your blocks are, having those nearby will be really good too. So while we're in this higher version of low lunge, you might want to take a little rock back and forth. So you'll notice as you rock back, you can kind of get into that calf a little bit on the back leg. And as you rock forward, maybe it opens up the hip flexor a little bit more. And then lowering that back knee down and allowing your left hip to sink a little further. So you can come up onto sort of fists or knuckles like I'm doing. If you've got your blocks, you're welcome to use your blocks. And untucking your toes. And then from here, rocking back, so a little bit like we did last time, flexing the foot. So if you've got your blocks, you can use your blocks to support you. And then from here, moving back even further, coming up to open the front of this quad. So if you've got your blocks, either little ones like this, or if you've got maybe you've got a platform or books which are a bit more like this, whatever you've got, you're going to pop them down underneath where your hip would go. And then really carefully walking back with your hands, using your blocks, coming to sit there. So you can decide how many you need. It depends how tight you are in your quads. So you've still got the left knee bent and right legs out in front. And then flexing through that right foot. If that already feels like quite a big stretch in your left quad, you can stay here. And maybe if you want to, you can bring the hands behind. And you can come as far down as feels good. So maybe you come down a little further if that feels comfortable. You can allow the head to relax. So this is all about what feels right for your body and what your legs are feeling like. So if your legs are feeling quite tight, it might be that actually staying up on the hands feels a lot better. Or staying in a more seated position. And if your legs are feeling quite open, then you might find that you can come down onto the elbows or a little further. So just coming to the place that feels good for you for a couple more breaths. And breathing into any sensations in the quads, any tightness. When you're ready, using your hands to help yourself come back up to center. And then removing any props. And finding your way back into all fours. So you might want to take a couple of hip circles here, loosening up lower back and hips. And then when you're ready, bringing that right foot back in front. Taking another little opening through that lunge. Bringing your right hand inside. So you've got your right and your left hand in front of the inside of the foot. And then allowing that hip to sink down. When you're ready, bringing that right hand back outside, scooting that right foot across, and bringing the left knee so that it's behind the right hand. So coming into pigeon pose. So this is a great place to grab your blocks again, pop them underneath the right hip, and then walking that left foot back a little bit more if you need to, so you can come to sit down. If that already feels like a really nice opening through the hip, then stay here. Otherwise, have a little walk forward with your hands. Maybe you come down onto elbows, and maybe you come down all the way. So wherever you are, whether you've come down further, whether you're on elbows or whether you're still quite upright, breathing into that right hip and getting a feel for what's going on in there today. Maybe you're feeling really open in your hips today and this is feeling really relaxing and really nice. Maybe your hips are super, super tight and it feels quite intense. If it does feel really intense, that's really normal. Hips get incredibly tight sometimes without us even knowing that that's happening. So, you know, your body might feel completely different to someone else's body. If you're doing this with somebody else as a pair, if you've been running together, then you might find one of you sort of lie down on the floor totally comfortable and the other one of you is feeling like this is a lot. So breathing into whatever's going on in your body and seeing if you can find a little bit of space with each exhale, maybe imagining a bit of space being created in that right hip. Taking one more breath here wherever you are. And then inhale. If you've come down to elbows or all the way, slowly walking the hands back in, removing any props from underneath the hips. And walking that left foot back in, bringing the right leg back into your all fours. Option here to take a little downward dog to open up through the legs. And then when you're ready, bringing the left foot forward, coming through the same thing on the left side. So coming into low lunge, you might need to come into all fours first and then bring it forward so you don't kick your blanket out of the way. And then keeping that back knee lifted for now. Option to take those little rocks back and forward, feeling into that right calf as you rock backwards. So you might find that this leg feels a lot tighter than the other. There's often one leg that gets really tight with running, so seeing what this feels like for you. And then lowering down that back knee, untucking the toes. If you've got your blocks, then you can use them underneath your hands here, coming into your low lunge, allowing the right hip to sink down a little bit. Seeing if you can find a bit of openness, a bit of broadening across your chest. And then taking a little rock back, bringing any props that you might need for this side into an easy accessible place. Taking that rock back, opening up the back of the leg this time, option to bring your blocks back with you. And option to lift the toes, getting into the back of the leg. And then bring in any blocks that feel good or your cushions underneath where you're going to sit on that left hip. And then really slowly, either using your blocks, or if you haven't got blocks, using your hands to lower yourself down. Coming in to stretch that right quad this time. So flexing the left toes up and noticing how that's feeling in the back of the leg, noticing how that's feeling in your right quad. Maybe you stay here, maybe you want to bring the hands behind. So again, you know, seeing how this is feeling in your body. Maybe your quads are particularly tight, maybe they're feeling really open. So finding your place. Maybe you can come down onto elbows. So you can come down as far as you like, whatever's feeling really good for your body. And remembering that you can always stay up on the hands, you can always stay leaning forward. This quad might feel completely different to the other ones. So really feeling in here, not overstretching anything, being really mindful to look after your body and to listen in. Particularly with running, it can get really, everything with bodies can get quite competitive, and with yoga as well, to be fair. So putting the two together, particularly if you're someone who likes your body to be doing certain things. I mean, I know that I often feel like I want my body to be able to do the things that it could do last week or the week before, and it can be really hard when it's having a day where it's feeling tight or it's feeling sluggish. So seeing if you're able to listen in and go with what it needs today, taking it just to that point where you begin to feel a stretch rather than where it's unbearably intense and you can't breathe. So taking it to a place that actually feels comfortable and where you can feel spacious and open in the pose. So taking a couple more breaths wherever you've chosen. And then carefully rising back up, moving any props out of the way and finding your way into that all fours. If that felt good before, to just have a couple of hip circles, releasing everything before coming back again into your low lunge. So when you're ready, back into your low lunge and bringing both hands inside of that left foot. So really allowing your right hip to sink down. Taking a couple of breaths, finding a little bit more openness. And then left hand comes outside of the left foot scoots across, bringing the left knee behind the right hand and popping a block underneath your left hip. Walking the right foot back as you come down into your version of pigeon pose. So maybe stay here, bringing the hands a couple of handprints forward. Maybe you come down onto elbows, or maybe you come down all the way. So seeing if you can create as much space as possible in this pose, sending your breath down to any tight areas in that left hip. Noticing what it feels like on this side. Is it different? Is it more open? Is it tighter? What's going on in your body today? Taking a couple more breaths here, allowing those hips that work so hard with running to open up a little bit more, to find a little bit of space. When you're ready, walking your hands in and walking that right foot in, moving any props out of the way. Coming back into your all fours position, and if you'd like to take a downward facing dog, you can tuck the toes under and take a downward dog. Nice big opening stretch. And then lowering the knees down. So coming into one final opener of the quads today. So finding yourself near to a wall if you've got one handy. It definitely helps if you've got something like that. A sofa could also work, or just anything that you can come up close to. And finding your blocks, or this is where a couple of water bottles could be good. So you're going to have your back to the wall, hands onto blocks, and bring your right foot forward in between your hands. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bring your, lift your toes so that they're coming up to press against the back wall as you move your knee further in. And then you're going to bring the top of your foot against the wall, moving the knee in so that your shin and your foot are against the wall, if that makes sense. So you might need to do a little bit of shuffling here. And using your blocks to help support you. Now, if this already feels like a massive stretch in the quads, you can stay here leaning on the blocks. Or if you want to, you can start to bring the hands up into the thighs and moving the hips back towards the heel. So coming into a much bigger opening of the quads. So I'll show you that from sideways on as well, so that in case you're not in your position. So I'll use the wall over here and then hopefully you can see. So you're bringing the right foot forward, if you haven't done so already, and then using your blocks. So first of all, using the toes against the wall to help yourself move back, and then you can untuck the toes as your knee gets a bit closer. Bringing the shin and the foot against the wall, and then option to either stay here or come up and bring the hips towards the heel. So taking a couple more breaths wherever you are. You can bring the blanket underneath your knee if you want a little bit of extra cushioning. I'm going to move back towards the wall that's in the middle. So it takes a bit of finagling to get into this position. Once you've done it a few times, it does get a bit easier, I promise. But it's a really nice way to open up the quads without having to balance on one leg, which is how we normally do it with running. Okay. When you're ready to come out, bringing hands back down to the blocks, leaning forward so that the toes can tuck under, press against the wall, and then you'll be able to walk the knee out a little bit and bring everything down. So doing the same on the other side whenever you're ready. So left foot coming forward this time, walking that right knee backwards until the foot touches the wall, and then tucking the toes under, walking the foot up the wall and moving the knee closer. So once you get close to the wall, you can untuck the toes, bringing the shin and the foot against the wall. Either option to lean into the blocks or to stay down there, or to bring your hands up to your thighs. And then opening up through that right quad. So it can feel really intense opening up through the quads. You may find that you don't actually need to bring the knee all the way back to the wall, or your sofa. You may find that having it slightly further out is enough. And you might find that staying leaning on the blocks actually feels like enough without bringing the hips further back and without bringing the hands onto the thighs. So this is about listening into your body, seeing where your quads are at. There's no need to force them into something that doesn't feel good. And if you haven't got the wall handy, then at this point in time, then don't worry too much. You can come back into a low lunge and bend the knee and grab hold of the foot instead if you want. But this is a nice way to stretch out the quads without having to really put in sort of too much effort when you've been for a long run and you don't want to be standing there, you know, balancing on one leg, and you know, it's a really nice way to open up this part of the body. So taking one more breath here, and then hands coming down to blocks. And then this is the slightly trickier bit, moving the knee out, pressing the toes against the wall, walking the hands forward until you're able to bring both knees down. So it is a slightly tricky one to get in and out of, but it's a really, really nice opening, I think, into that part of the body. And then whenever you're ready, grab in a cushion, a blanket, coming to lie down on your back, something underneath your head, something underneath your knees if that feels good. Lowering all the way down and coming to rest. Maybe the arms come out to the side, the eyes close. Take in a few minutes in Shavasana, well-earned rest at the end of your run and your stretching. Maybe you want to pop on a bit of music or something else that feels really good. So finding a position that feels really comfy here, so the legs can be out. You can have the knees bent, lightly knocking together. And then allowing your breath to go to normal, whatever that might be today. How does your body feel now after your run, after this class? Were there specific areas that you discovered that were feeling really tight that you hadn't known about? Maybe your body was feeling more open or a bit looser than it had done before. So seeing what's going on for you, what's going on in your body. And if any of those particular stretches felt really good, then you can always do them for a little bit longer at the end of your runs. You can experiment with mixing and matching from different classes if you know that you're prone to getting really tight in certain areas. So having a little feel into what works for you, what poses work for you. So not every pose will work for every body, every bit of tightness. So, you know, feel free to pick and choose, like a little buffet of options. You can have whatever it is that you like from all of the different poses that we do together. So I really encourage you to spend a few more minutes in whatever position you're in, allowing your body to drink in this restoration, to be really heavy against the mat, to be supported, to not be working hard for just a few moments longer. I hope you've enjoyed this class today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste.